So, I apologize for everything. I don't know what you heard, what you didn't. I had to literally, I was in a specific location so I can record without any having to fear like kids and noise and stuff like and birds because I have lots of birds here in the house and there's also better internet and unfortunately everything kind of went awry. The internet down was there over there was down. There was also other people over there. My setup wasn't working, so I just came over here. So I'm back. I don't know how much was heard, not heard before, but we should be good now. All right. I will definitely post the finalized version of this where I strip out all this madness. So, without further ado, hi. I'm Ishmaru. I'm a game developer. I'm a fan of anime and retro games, and specifically a show, a web series called Ruby. Well, it's now going to be officially an anime now that it's owned by Viz Media. And I've been working on a fan game for several years now. Actually, approaching either the third year, I believe. In October, I believe I started this back in 2021, I believe. It may have been, or yeah, 21. And I've been in this community long enough. There's a lot of people wanting video games, especially for Ruby, specifically because, well, Ruby is inspired by a lot of video games, such as like Final Fantasy and fighting games and stuff like that. And there's been a real want for making Ruby games, and I've been very vocal with the community, trying to encourage people who want to do this and give them tools. But there's still a lot of people who are feeling like, well, games can't really be done. So without any sort of prior knowledge or experience. So I want to show how easily you can make a game. And easy is, of course, a very relative word because I'm not going to make a super polished, you know, like finalized game. I'm just going to be rough and tumble. I'm going to quickly build up something for about an hour. It's going to be bare bones, but it should give you a good perspective on some core mechanics. Like we're going to go over movement and combos and taking damage and showing health. And what you're seeing here is a little mock-up that I put together. Um, I'm going to quickly play. It's very simple, but it should fit within our time frame here. Also, the bottom of my screen might be broken, so if you can't see it, that's my broken computer. But you see here, I got basic combos. Oh, let me get rid of this debugger. We have a basic AI. See, he's attempted to hit me. You see, either take damage, and you have your gun attack. You also can, oops, have a little special move by shooting. Oops, getting owned here. We get the idea. Yeah, you have a little special attack here. If I, while you're walking and you shoot, she propels herself forward, and then she can follow up with that spin attack. Very bare bones. I'm not going to worry about like ending the game or the thing when you lose your health. We can build on that, but I wanted to kind of cover the concepts that more people are scared about, which was the combos, which is, movement, damage calculation. And if we have extra time, we can go into whatever you want, and including kind of finalizing those parts. So believe it or not, what you just saw here, this is the entire code for it. Just all this group here. 66 events. Not bad. Really not bad at all. That I had fully working movement. You can walk left to right. You can turn left to right. You had your attack button, which you can go into a 3-hit combo with it. You had a secondary button that shoots a bullet. And you have that special move, which is if you are walking and you shoot, you do something completely alternative, which is propelling yourself forward with your gun. And then if you hit the attack button after you shoot that propulsion bullet, you then go into a spin attack. And then you have a very basic AI. It basically identifies where you are, closes the distance, and then attempts its own combo. Very simple and only took 66 events. Really not much code. This is everything. Well, how do I get to it? So I'm going to take this. and I'm going to inactivate it. I inactivated it. This will now, if I run it, nothing's gonna happen. See, like, no movement, no anything. I just disabled the code essentially. I'm gonna keep it here because honestly, I get very nervous when it comes to making videos and doing public stuff. So I tend to forget things and I tend to get things jumbled and confused. So I will keep it here just for reference sake and also be kind of my notes on where to talk about. And I'll actually, if um, I'll happily continue this on if people want to see more of this in the future. So let's begin. Well, let me start actually before we get into the code. Let's explain this. So this is Multimedia Fusion. This is a game engine that's been around forever, since the late 90s. It's changed names several times. First came, it was originally either Click and Play or Click and Create, and then became the other one. It also had alternate names like Multimedia Fusion, the Games Factory. I think it even had a couple different companies owning. I think there's Europress. I think had some license to it, and then Corel, I want to say was the name of another company that had either a license or something to do with ClickTeam. There's actually a whole website dedicated to the history of this engine called Clicktopia, and it's actually pretty cool that they put this together. But this engine has actually been around a long time, well before, you know, Unity. Not it might have come around Unreal because Unreal was late 90s, I believe, or early 2000s. But the capacity to make games where it didn't require actual like sit down with a text editor coding was it was one of the pioneers of that. I know like when I learned it, there was also the other popular one, Game Maker. I haven't used this since those early days, but I felt that it was a lot less robust than what it has. What at the time when I got it, the Games Factory had. Now, of course, Game Maker has since exploded in popularity, and it's probably grown a lot, and it's probably super versatile now. But I'm just talking about the early days. Back, I think before even Yo-Yo Games, like it was literally one single developer creating it. But this is Fusion. Fusion is specifically a tool for creating two-dimensional games. However, you can build three-dimensional games with some really smart engineering where I've seen people make like Doom-like games without any plugins or anything. But there is also plugins for three-dimensional games like the Firefly plugin. In my personal opinion, I haven't gotten to play with it, but I would say as a general rule, you want to stick to engines that do what they do best. This has always been a 2D engine. I think it's going to more excel in the 2D rather than the 3D realm. You're probably better off with a more dedicated 3D engine for that. But that's just my opinion. Feel free to try it out. So let's give us some basics here. So we have how Fusion works is that there's objects. All sorts of different objects. Not going to create anything now, but you can see all sorts of these objects in here. The most common one you're going to see is the active object, and you could basically use it for almost anything. You just might have to code. At least I'm going to say code because it's its own, and I'll show you that code in a second. We'll walk through that. But it's its own kind of thing. It's a lot easier to deal with. These are active objects, both characters. These objects here are called counters. Literally, they count. They store values, or you can display values. Essentially, they are are a variable, but specifically for viewing it. You can hide them. You can use them for variables, but there's already built-in stuff to do variables too. You don't need to worry about that. For those who aren't programming, adequate variables are where you store information. In Fusion, variables are all numbers. However, in other engines, other languages, variables can be all sorts of types of data as like text or images or file locations or true and false statements, whatever. There's tons of that. But with Fusion, it's just nice and simple. It's just a number. In fact, I have a few variables that I wrote here, and you don't have to declare them in Fusion. Every single active object has a variable A through ZZ So I don't even want to do the math for how many that is, but they just kind of come by default. You can declare an actual name just to make it easier. So I declared two, direction and HP. Same goes for Ruby here, direction and HP. And oh, for those who aren't into Ruby, Ruby is one of the main characters of the series. Not to be Ruby, R-U-B-Y, not to be confused with R-W-B-Y. Just I'm trying my best to not confuse anyone who's not into the show, but that's who this character is here, and that's who it is. And then we have Evil Ruby, who's going to be our AI opponent. Now, the other big thing with active is that you can store animations, and that's the big thing here. Animations is what's going to power everything, and trust me, for doing this for so long, animations is the main thing. Like I know that games, you may believe that games don't need graphics as long as the gameplay is fun, and that's absolutely true, but it still uses animations in some effect, whether it's literally just bobs or something just sliding across the screen. Like animations is pivotal. So active objects is designed to be an object that has lots of animations. Fusion has a bunch that are already predefined, and they are linked to movements that you can use. I will not be using click team movements. Nothing against them. They're all very good. I personally decided that for Huntress of Vale, I wanted direct control over the object and how they moved. So and I'll be doing it here. It's actually not as scary as you think. But animations, we have like your idle, stopped. You have like, there's a walking, a running, which is meant for faster movement. You have your disappearing, which will typically be your death animation or KO, depending on the game. Launching is preset by the engine to assume that you're going to use this for shoot animation. It's tied to some inner functions with an action called launching, where automatically if you launch an object, it will try to play this animation if it finds it. I personally don't like it. You don't have a lot of control over where it spawns or how it acts once it's spawned, but it's there. Jumping, these are all linked to a built-in platform movements. I'm not going to be using that. I'm actually using these as placeholders to fit my animation. So falling, I'm using as a get hurt animation. Jumping is for Ruby's dash animation when she shoots her gun to propel herself forward. Crouch down, it will be a block. I'm actually not going to use this right now. We can go into blocking afterwards. That's another layer that we don't need to cover right now. And then I got your attack animations. Got attack here, attack 2, which is a follow-up, and then your third attack in the combo, which is the spin attack. Now, how you set up, how many frames you use, what exactly you include or not include, that's up to you. In fact, I have a 3-hit combo for the Evil Ruby, but she actually only has 2 animations. I decided to link the second and the third one into one single animation. So it's both the second hit and the third hit. It just makes it easier for me, less code for me to worry about. Alright. I went ahead and set that up. There's just a simple background here. Nothing to report. It's just a static background. Alright, so let's jump into some code here. Alright? So first thing we're going to do is, I always like to start with the start and always event. I don't have a start event. Start events are literally just the second the level loads, do this. I actually don't have anything set for that. Reason is because when you declare your variables, you also can set your default variables in here. Typically, if you don't declare them here, you would be using the start to set your HP, to even put whatever objects down on the screen. I have it all set to do that automatically. These are all options built into Fusion. As we see here, we have, the create at start on, which means it will just put that exact object at that exact location when it starts. I don't need to worry about it. You have your HP already set. The other one is direction. Direction I'm going to use to track which direction you're facing. You can track by physically looking up which direction they have. Oh yeah, Fusion built in has only 32 directions. It defaults to 4. It assumes everything's top down, so it gets a little weird when you try and do side stuff. but you just simply just copy and paste both sides, and it knows by tracking its direction. Each direction is tied to a number. Right, literally just far right is just 0, and it goes all the way to just before far right, which is this one, which is 31. So it's 32 total directions. Now, because of that, you can only check for one specific direction. And if you're using things like platform movement, where you have movement that are moving you up, moving you down, moving you diagonally, it gets kind of ugly to try to check for that, because you're not always 100% exactly left or exactly right. So I use this variable. So directions, you can be 1 or 0. 0 is to the right, 1's to the left. So first thing I did was I'm going to add an always event. So you go into this, everything's called conditions. You add a new condition, go into special, always. Always literally means that every frame. Do this every frame. Now, what was the second I wanted to do? I was going to set the counters. We're going to set them to their HP. Very simple. So we go to our enemy life counter. We're going to set the counter to Evil Ruby. Go to look up her ultra valuable direction HP. So you see HP Evil Ruby. We can even copy this text if you wanted to. And we're going to go to player life, set counter, and we're going to paste that here, and we're just going to do Ruby. Very simple. Now, whenever they take a hit, their counters will automatically update. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to update directions based on that counter. So that way we have control over which direction they're facing. So, there's one more thing I need to explain to you, and this is a shortcut to make this easier where I don't have to code everything twice. There's something called groups. In other languages or things, it could be called a class. Basically, it defines multiple objects as being the same, so you can basically apply the same code to both. So these are two different objects, Ruby and Evil Ruby. I gave them both, they're no longer called groups in Fusion, it's called qualifiers. They were called groups back when I started. They do the same thing. The qualifier is NPC. I use that for both. So in the code, I'm going to put in the always event. I'm going to go to start with there you go, group NPC. And then we're going to go, actually no, we're not going to do the always event. I'm sorry, we're going to do that as a condition. So we're going to check what is the value. We're going to go to the group, which is down here. We're going to check not go to direction. We're going to go to pair to one of the alter variables. I'm sorry, that's like a tongue twister for me, so I will be messing that up a lot. So bear with me. We're going to set it to direction. Direction equals to 0. And then we're going to set the group's direction to 0. And I'm going to copy it here, do the same thing. 1. And we're going to go over here. And we're going to copy this down, and we're going to do the inverse. All right. Just checking, making sure I got anything. Okay. Very simple. And we can check up here, make sure I point them the right direction. I do. And then next thing we're going to do is going to update the positions. Okay. So now we have those set. So now whenever the value for either one, since they're both in the group, and I'm not going to get into scope because that's a whole nother conversation. It's not related to this at all. We're going to just build this game, and if we ever want to do more, we can talk about scope. But it just leave it as it knows which one we're talking about. So it's going to check for each one of them, check their value every single frame, and then if it's 0, it sets it to the right. If it's 1, it sets it to the left. So the next thing I want to update is now we had to update positions. Oh, and the colliders. I didn't even go over colliders. You are probably wondering what these little things over here are. These are your colliders. These are your hit boxes. I call them colliders. It's the same thing. This is how you're going to differ. Because as you see, especially with Ruby having such a giant unbearing weapon, Um, you don't want to register a hit if someone hits her blade as a taking damage. So we give her a nice little round circle that's going to detect the collisions for us. But those are static, so I need to link them to the character. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm actually in the code here. I did it as another always event, but since we already have the always, let's just do it in here. So first thing first, we're going to set this position. So go down to position, select position. This is for the green, so it's going to go to regular Ruby. This will be at 0, 0. You might want to change it depending on how you have the positioning of your sprite. And then for the enemy collider, 1 second. Sorry, I actually locked everyone out by accident, so I had to open the door for them. I hope they won't be mad. Anyways, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set the position, select position. This is for the red one. It's going to go to the evil character. And just like that, for now, every single frame, those hitboxes will follow. And the other thing we need to do is... yes, important. Setting direction. We can also copy their directions over. So we're going to go into direction, select directions for the green. Instead of picking it here, we're going to need to pick, we want to do a calculation. So instead of us picking it for us here, we're going to go calculate direction. And it's not going to actually be a calculation. It's literally going to be as simple as, since this is a green one, look up Ruby, right click, animation, current direction value. And this is more static. We're not going to be using the direction data for these colliders for anything other than just having it set to what Ruby's is. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't need to worry about setting a variable for that. So we'll do the same thing here, position. Direction, select direction, calculate, evil Ruby, animation, current direction value. And I meant to do these up here. My bad. Another thing we could do is double click in here, and I can copy, I can paste. That's not what I wanted to copy and paste. Oh, I already have them. Look at that. Set position, set direction. Perfect. Now that we have that set up, we can now start actually moving her. So we're going to go, I'm just double checking what I wanted to do here. Yep. So what we're going to do is something simple. There's joystick support. I'm not getting into that. We're just going to simply do keyboard. So with keyboard, we're going to do on pressing a key. I'm going to press the right key. Actually, excuse me, not on key, because that only does it for one. We want to do repeat while key is pressed, because you want to keep walking while you're holding the button down. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. Just checking messages. So we can do left hour. So we have both, and then what we want to do. So since we're only doing, obviously, controlling Ruby here, we don't need to do it on the group. We're doing this on Ruby directly. We're going to take this, and we're going to go animation, change. We're going to change the animation sequence to the walking one. Super simple. And I believe, yes, we're going to set the direction too. So we're going to go to alter variables, set direction to 0, and I can't say that, set this to 1. So both direction, and let's see what we got so far. So now the animation just plays, but the direction isn't updating. Let's see. You know what? I'm actually going to do A and D. I apologize, because I forgot how uncomfortable the arrow keys are for these sort of games. So set that to walking, set that to walking. What am I missing here? I wonder if my directions. Oh, I didn't actually code the directions. See, this is why I have my notes. I set up the event and I didn't do anything with it. So let's go do something with it. So the direction, if the direction for the group is equal to 0, we're going to go to the group and set their direction manually. I'm sorry, the direction variable. I'm going to set the actual direction to the right. And if the variable is 1, we're going to set the direction to the left. There we go. Now when we run it, there we go. I inverted it by accident, but it works. Let me go flip that, because this was supposed to be the right key and this is supposed to be left key. So I'll just have to deal with it. So right, left. Let's make this easier on you. Now that we have that, we didn't physically move though. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go here. We're going to add a new condition. Let's do this for both because both need to walk. So we're going to go to the group, animation. We're going to check to see what animation is playing. We're going to check to see if walking is playing. So if walking is playing, and we're going to check the direction, luckily we can take this and just copy it down here. So if they're walking and their direction variable is 0, they're moving to the right. Now we're going to go to the group. We're going to go to position, set its x coordinate. And this one might be a little, for non-programmed, a little new. It's going to be, if you have your, try to think of it this way. Think of your position, your x, y coordinates as variables, meaning their number. If you want them to move, you have to update that number, because their number ties to what exact pixel going from left to right they fall on. So if I want the character to move to the right, I will need to first start with, I need to set their position to their current position that they are right now. So I need to get that. So alter variables, position, x coordinate, and then I need to add to it. So how much I want to add is essentially their speed. So I want to add 8. So this means that when walking is playing and its direction is 0, you set its position, x position, to its x coordinate plus 8 every frame. Does that make sense? So every single frame, it set its position to its current position and then adds 8 to that. So that way every frame will always be incrementing by 8. Now for the other side, we just simply copy and paste. We keep the walking, but we want to change the direction value. So now it's 1, which means left. So now we're going to do the same exact thing, but instead of plus 8, minus 8. Because we're going to the left, our x position needs to get lower. So now let's take a look. Now, if I walk to the left, she walks to the left, she walks to the right. Now, you're kind of noticing something a little weird here is that she's not stopping walking. We need to add logic to detect that she's not walking. So now let's go down here, add a new condition. We're going to now, actually this is pretty simple. We're going to go repeat while left, repeat while right, and then we're going to go to Fusion. It has this negate function. And every language, everything has a way of negating. Sometimes a little like the exclamation point, sometimes physically typing the word not in it, but that basically tells it do the opposite. So while right arrow is not pressed and its left arrow is not pressed, then we're going to set the animation to stopped. And now she stops. Look at that. How fast was that? All right. Now you probably noticed that there's going to be some things that I'm not going to go over yet. These, when you see, like for example, you see some extra stuff here. It doesn't pertain to us right now, so we'll come back to that because they are important. They will come up later, but we don't need to deal with these right now. This is basically just setting limits that if certain animations are playing, we don't want this logic. But we updating the position here. Ah, yes, setting boundaries. As you notice, there's no boundaries on here, so I could just walk off the stage. And in Fusion, if you walk off too far, it automatically deletes you. So we don't want that. So let's go set up some boundaries. Let's show you how to do that. We're going to go to add a new condition. We're going to go to the group. We're going to check its current position. So compare X position to a value. What that means is we're going to take that current number of their position in pixels and then compare it to a number. So we're going to compare it to equal. I'm going to go lower or equal. Now we're checking the left boundary since 0 starts at the left. So if it's less than pixel 0, then we're going to go to the group and we're going to set its position to 0. So if it's ever less than 0, it just sets it to 0, meaning you can't walk. It's going to keep bumping you back to the 0 position. We're going to copy that over, and we're going to do the opposite. You're going to pick whatever frame is going to be greater or equal, at whatever the maximum of whatever stage you're on. In my case, it's 940. I'm going to take this, and we're going to set its position to 940. And now, we have boundaries set up. I can't physically walk off the stage anymore. This is a lot. Like, this is pretty quick. Imagine trying to do this from a hand-built engine. So I got the boundary set up. Now I probably want to start combos, but I want to make sure. Set the boundaries. All right, I did this first. Ah, yes. This is actually a smarter way of doing it. So I just did it just checking for if the keys are here. But I'm going to add an extra one that we need to check to make sure that Ruby is currently walking. That's just a nice little failsafe. Because, for instance, since we're setting the animation, if I'm doing a middle of a combo, if I'm not pressing left or right, she's going to go back to stopped anyway. So this one, at least make sure it's just for the walking animation. So I think it's combo time. But first, we got to start with just a single attack. So we're going to start a new condition. We're going to go into the keyboard. I'm going to do upon pressing a key, which means it only does it for the instant you press it, not afterwards. I'm going to ask you what key. What do we want to assign it? Arrow keys. So I guess let's do Z and X. That thinks it's your standard emulator buttons. So if you're pressing Z, you're going to go to Ruby, not the group, animation, change, animation sequence to attack 1. Let's check that. Look at that. That's interesting that it got frozen there. I'm wondering if I accidentally left this on loop. 686. Interesting. So that probably means it's something else. Typically, we want to check to see if attack 1 is not playing. I believe this is what I did, or did I check what it currently is? Yes. I just checked to see if there's certain animations aren't playing. And then I added a nice little this little condition. This is super useful. Only one action when event loops. Sometimes a lot of events are designed to kind of trigger every time they happen. And I think what you saw the freezing there was that it triggered multiple times and the animation got stuck. See if that fixes it. Nope, it doesn't, huh? That's strange because that didn't happen in mine. Now it does it for both sides. Why is actually kind of curious if it's physically the button itself. Like, I can try this one. See if that changes it. Let's try the H key. No. Huh. Well, it should automatically return to normal, but since it's not doing that, let's force it to. Here you go. We're going off rails right now. So we're going to go Ruby animation, has an animation finished, attack 1. Now we're going to set it back to idle, which is to stop. So we're going to set change animation sequence to stopped. That does it. It automatically does it when it's over. So now it should force it to do it. What? Something's funky here. What is going on here? I'm looking at the wrong character. You. Attack 1. 6, 8. 6, 8, and it's not looping. I don't understand. Okay. Well, I'm going to press forward, and I'll have to deal with it later. Okay, that's weird. No, yeah, I did that on the group. I'm sorry. This should be happening specifically for Ruby, not on the group, because we don't control the other character. I'm wondering if that had something to do with it. Nope. But still, that shouldn't be like that. So we're just gonna move forward. I don't know why it didn't do it when I did the code up here, and maybe when I have the whole thing, I'll start to fix it. But we'll have to make do. So anyways, that was the first hit in the combo. Let's go make another hit. I'm gonna copy that, paste it down here. This is also pressing Z. But this one's going to be different. We're not going to check if it's not playing. We're actually going to check if it is. So we're going to negate this back, not have the X. So when attack 1 is playing, and then we're going to add a new condition where we're going to go check her animation, her current frame. We're going to make sure that we are past the frame that's going to actually detect the hit. So we're going to start with 5. Okay. And then we're going to go check. Oh, what was I checking here? Current frame equals. We don't want that. We want to go more. Greater than 5. So I believe 5 is the hit frame. So now I'm not used to these controls. Sorry. There you go. Well, it's kind of doing it. It's not. It's getting all hung up. So let's go. Ah, I know why. As attack 2. Actually, I don't know why. 1 second. This needs to be down here. What did I do here? Yeah, that should be it. Let's do the third. Attack 2. I'm going to go here. I think this one's a little bit later, so let's do 6. I'm going to change to 3. I'm trying to see if I... so weird. Why is it doing that? This is I'm genuinely wondering if having the commented code is messing it up. Something's funky here. What is funky with this? Alright, I'm wondering if I'm better off doing this where let's deactivate all those. And let's activate all of this. I think this would have made more sense if I just deactivated and build them right there so we could see. 'Cause jumping back and forth is probably confusing. So we got the walking. We did this, but I actually skipped this step. So we're going to go down here. I'm going to move these further down. Okay. Didn't want to do it to everything, but okay. I want to go to okay, there we go. We should be back. There you go. I think it was conflicting with the code that I had before. I don't know why it shouldn't be, but it seems to gotten really hung up. Also, we're moving to the WSAD keys in H and J. For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe my brain can't handle it. No, no, no. Let's do this right. I want to do this. Z keys for all the combos. I'm going to check if it's left and right. Left and right. It is just... yeah, it's working a lot better. So I guess since I'm going to use these now, I might as well explain these. Basically, all I had these because we didn't have these programmed yet. I wasn't going to jump into that, but that's what these are for, just checking to see if these animations are not playing. And there's a reason for that, because I don't want them to be interrupted by walking. Sometimes in fighting games, you want to be able to move out of an attack to save yourself, and that's what it's for. But certain ones you don't. You can't do that, so that's what those are for. Alright, so... alright, now we're back in action. So what I want to do now... so you see we have walking, we have your combos. Isn't that cool? The reason I picked a certain frame is that you don't want them to happen too early. And you can even pick an ending frame if you want to make... if you want to make really difficult combos, you have a very small window. You can put a maximum in there. For instance, if attack 2, you need to go lower than 9 or something, you can do that. I don't even think there's 9 frames in it, but you get the idea. Alright, well, we got a 3-hit combo. Something I wanted to say is that usually, when you are in a fighting game, closing the distance between opponents can be a little difficult, so usually games try to help by pushing them forward while you're doing the attack. Let's code that. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go do insert nuke event, and I'm going to check for if the animation is playing. It's basically going to work a lot like the walking one. We're going to go to Ruby, animation, which animation is playing. It's going to be attack 1. And then we're going to copy over the, I'm going to put these two here. We're checking to see that position while she steps forward. And then what we're going to do is set alter variable, set, oh, not variable, sorry, position, set x coordinate. Since it's checking, it's in direction 0, we're going to go position, x coordinate, and then we're going to add, since she's going to go forward, let's say 3. Okay, I did 4 previously, so let's bump it to 4. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so just simply copy and paste, set the direction equal to 1, and the current frame still stays the same, and then we're going to change this to be -4. So now when we run it, she slides forward a little bit. That kind of helps close the distance, because a lot of times you'd be like, oh, I missed. And that's what we're going to do. So now we're going to actually register some hits. So we're going to go here, add a new condition. We're going to first check to see if Ruby is attacking. So Ruby is attacking, so we check to see if that one's playing. I meant to do this, insert a new event, Ruby, animation. Which animation is playing, attack 1. Then we need to check to see that she's touching the enemy collider. So add new condition, Ruby, collision, overlapping another object, enemy collider. That's essentially detecting the hitbox. Now we need to make sure it's the right frame. So we're going to go here, add a new condition, Ruby, animation, compare to current frame. Let's do 5. I think I did 6 here, so let's do 6, sorry. That might be a problem for the combo here, because I think oh, it's after 5, so I want to do after 6. Otherwise, the hit will never register. And then, of course, we're going to add one of these, only one action, one event loops. This especially, because this is overlapping this event is a time-based event. It will literally register every single frame that this happens. Same with the attack, the checking if animation is playing, because every single frame that's playing, it's picking up that and running that code. So we're going to add only one action, one event loops, basically limit it to one group. So it'll detect it once and then not detect it again until that animation finishes, or the character is no longer touching it. Then it'll reset, then it can trigger again. So now what's going to happen when you hit them? Well, we want to do a few things. First of all, let's make a nice little effect here. We all like little like ding and hit impacts, so we're going to do that. We're going to set that here. So in Fusion, there's something called the hotspot and the action point. The hotspot is its physical root, meaning the physical origin point of it. This means this is the center of the object. They also have an additional second point called the action point that doesn't necessarily affect much unless you choose to. It's just an arbitrary point that you set ahead of time, and you can use it for certain effects. You can link other objects to it. You can use that as where the bullet comes out of, whatever you want. I set that up to be used for here. So I'm going to pick the action point. So now when it detects a hit, there's going to be a nice little like glint effect coming from her side. Then we need to register some hits. So let's go to Evil Ruby. We're going to subtract from her health, her HP. Let's do 5. So every time I hit, I'm going to get this little effect. I'm going to subtract 5 from her health. Nope, I did it to the wrong Ruby. Evil Ruby. And then we're going to go set Evil Ruby's animation to the falling, which is her getting hit. Now we should get a nice little over. Ding! She twitches. Whoa, what am I? Oh, she's bouncing backwards there. Why does she move back? I'm racing through this and I'm messing up somewhere. Zero ruby, right? Hmm. Ironically, you would want that, but why is she bouncing back? That's so weird. Something's off here. Oh. Oh. That's why. We are detecting the wrong thing. We want to detect all for ruby. There we go. We, if you know, I don't know if you noticed, but I had the group in for the animation movement here. It had the group in there, so it was picking up and actually mixing up with the other ruby. Now it should be fine. There you go. She twitches when she gets hit. All right, cool. Well, we still got 3 more hits to program, so let's go do those. I'm just simply copy and paste it. Now we're going to check for attack 2. We're going to go, I think, wait, I can just see. Yeah, this one's also 6. Only one action when event loops. Oh, it's actually 4. My bad. Same everything else. We're also going to do 5 HP, I believe. Yep, 5 HP. So we already have all that set. And we're just going to go ahead and do the last one. The last one is a much longer animation, so this one's actually going to be frame 8. Check for attack 3. And then, since this is a final hit in the combo, let's do a much nicer chunk of damage. 10. Now let's try. Let's go over here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Alrighty, we got damage now. Look at that. Now, I kind of hit the hour mark, but I don't count it since a vast majority of this time was just me trying to get the stream to work. So we're going to push forward. Let's go do a shoot attack. So we're going to go here, insert a new event. We're going to check another button. We're going to go here, keyboard, repeat while key is pressed. We're going to check on the X key. And then we're going to go check to see if the animation for Ruby is stopped. And then we're going to check to see, we're going to do another thing. So this is similar to the only one action when event loops, but there's another called restrict actions, where basically every time the action does, a little timer goes, a little cooldown goes off where it doesn't trigger again. You can set that. I'm going to set it to 1 second. You really shouldn't be shooting more than 1 bullet a second anyways for that kind of gun anyways, so that works out perfectly. And then what we need to do is, well, first of all, she needs to get into her shoot animation. So let's go set that animation sequence to launching. Now we're going to, there is a function called launch an object. I don't like it because you can't control the animation. I think how it works default is that it plays the launching animation, and then when the launching animation is done, then it physically shoots a projectile, but then nothing, no variables, no movements, nothing you program directly on that has any effect. It literally just kind of automatically just goes in a direction and continues to go in that direction indefinitely. So I really don't like that behavior. So this is more for have a little more control. So instead, we're just going to create it. Create the bullet. Now the bullet already has a movement assigned to it, where it just goes 200 speed in whatever direction it's facing. So that makes things simpler. So we're just going to have it spawn on Ruby. But this time we're going to go to options. I'm going to put a few interesting ones. You got the orientation. So that means that when this bullet is created, it automatically inherits the direction of Ruby. So that means she'll shoot in whatever direction she's facing. There's also the located, where if you do this, and let's just do that a bit. Let's play with that. Let's do located 2. We're going to bump this to 50 because the default direction in Fusion is always 0 to the right. So whenever you do something like this, it's assuming you mean go to the right. So if we move X to the 50, that means the bullet is going to spawn 50 pixels ahead of Ruby in whatever. And since we have the location and orientation set to Ruby, that would be either positive 50 or negative 50 in the other direction. Or at least appear to be negative 50 in the other direction. Okay, we launched it. We changed the animation. I don't think there's anything else we got to do here. Let's go test it. So X, boop, shot. And I'm just mashing the button, as you see she can't shoot more faster than that. Now, of course, traditionally speaking, I don't like how much high that bullet came out. Let me try just setting it back to 0. And let's not worry about that. Alright. I know that it kind of looks kind of boring with just the 1-frame animation, but we're not. To make it look really nice, and how we do it for Huntress of Vale, it's a lot more complicated because she has a separate animation to prepare her gun. Then it plays the animation to launch an object, and then it plays. And then from there, you can either decide to keep shooting, which then it'll just repeat the shooting animation, or it then returns where she transforms her weapon back into a scythe form. So that's a lot more complicated. We're not going to do that right now. We'll just keep it simple like that. Now we get to register the bullet hit. So we're going to insert a new event. And this time we're going to take the bullet, collisions, overlapping another object. You can also use collides with another object. The difference between the two is collides is literally on hit, the moment of touch. And then overlapping is for a general, it just checks to see if they're touching every frame. The collision one is great because it's faster. However, if you want to have additional checks, like check for other things such as like timers or variables or certain animations are playing, it won't really work because some of those conflict. So usually use overlapping to capture everything. So, alright, we're testing that with enemy collider. Now, we're going to create a little effect to signify the impact. So we're going to create it right on the bullet itself. And then we're going to destroy said bullet, which basically means delete. It deletes it off that instance. And then we're going to go to the enemy collider. We're going to go to the enemy Ruby, excuse me. Alter variables. We're going to subtract 5 from her HP. And then change her animation to falling. Okay, I guess I did 3 HP, so I might as well copy that. I probably did that because I thought people can cheese with bullets. Yep, and that's everything. Now, we can go over here, and we can shoot. Take that, and that. So now we wanted to do something cool. So the default logic for shooting, it just happens whenever it happens when it's stopped. Well, what happens if I hit the shoot button while moving? For those of you who aren't into Ruby, and I might have mentioned this before, but who haven't watched the show or know about it, the character has an oversized sniper scythe, and she does use it, the the recoil from it as a way to move around the battlefield. She can propel herself forward or up or whatever using that. So let's recreate that here. So we're going to add a new condition. We're going to check for keyboard. Repeat while key is pressed. X key again. I did it to the wrong thing, so excuse me. Do that again. Insert new event. X. Then we're going to check to see if it's walking. So I'm going to bring this down. So that's Ruby. I'm going to check her for walking. I noticed that I did it wrong here where I used group. It happens. We're going to bring down the restrict actions again because we don't want to do it once every minute. And then we're going to check the direction because that's also important. Because unfortunately, while there's a way to have it oriented the same one, there's not a way to have it to do the opposite. So I have to do this manually. So let's check the direction. Add a new condition, Ruby, alt for variables, and we're going to do direction equal to 0. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create an object, just like before. We're going to create the bullet, create Ruby. There's no need to set its orientation or anything because we're going to override it. So when you create a new object, you essentially you can set things directly to the object you created specifically. So I created an object, I'm going to go to bullet, and now I'm going to set the direction. This one's going to set it to the opposite. So it's facing right, so we're going to go left. We're going to change Ruby's animation from the shooting one. Instead of shooting, it's going to go do the jumping. Jumping is a placeholder for where she propels herself forward with the gun. And I think that's it for that. Yep. Now we just had to do the other side. So copy the whole thing, paste it. We're going to go do direction equals to 1. And now we're going to set its direction to this way. Now before we test it, I'm going to let you know it's not going to fully work right now because, well, it's not going to actually propel forward because we haven't programmed that. So let's go do that now. So let's go add a new condition. We're going to check animation. Which animation Ruby is playing is going to be the jumping. Okay, apparently I can't create that on top of a disable one again. I don't know why. So animation, which is playing, it's going to be the jumping. It's so weird that it didn't let me do that, but anyways, all right, we got that. We're going to check. Oh, let's put that down here. I'm sorry. I'm getting all sorts of confused here. We're going to check its direction. It's funny that I did this to the group because I don't have it for the other one. So I'm going to keep doing it this way. So we're going to bring down the direction check. I'm going to set this one to 0. And then the frame, we're going to keep drag this down here so I don't have to keep clicking on it. I'm going to check to see if it's lower than 5. Actually, and then we're going to set this. We don't want to do it to that one. That doesn't make sense. We're going to do it here. Change animation. Wait, we want to go position. Sorry, position. Is that X coordinate? Ruby plus 16. We're going to double the speed. That's right, 15. Yep. instead of doing it to the group. I think I did it to the group because I thought that both had it, but they actually don't. Evil Ruby doesn't have this animation, so this could never happen anyway. So I might as well do it to the right class anyway. So we're going to do -16 because we can do the opposite. Check direction 1. Alright, let's see what we got. Not walking still. Look at that. I did it to the wrong Ruby. Let's move those over. Look at that. Walking, she shoots a bullet, and she goes that way. And look at that. She even takes damage when you shoot her from behind because you're still shooting a physical bullet. Isn't that cool? Let me go up here and fix something. If you notice, the bullet was kind of not coming out of the right direction because it's kind of too high. Let's add 50 to the Y, and that should fix that. Okay. Well, now we got that. So what else can we do here? Well, she's doing something to propel herself forward. Why don't we turn that into another kind of attack? So let's go into here. I'm going to insert new event. I'm going to check for key press. I'm going to go back to the Z key since this is a melee attack, not a shooting attack. And then we're going to check if jumping is playing. And I'm going to bring back our good old friend, only one action when event loops. Sorry, there you go, limit conditions, only one action when event loops. Okay, now we're going to simply change animation, change sequence to spin attack. And that's it. Now with spin attack, it's also a movement. He spins and goes forward. So let's go animate that. Just like shooting just while walking or walking, we're going to first insert new event. I'm going to check the animation. Check to see that it is spin attack. And then we're going to check its direction. Just drag it down. Might as well do this for both of them, since there's always both sides. And then what we're going to do, we're going to position. What do you think? Let's not do a full amount. Let's add her walk speed. Let's just say that. So B minus, since it's the opposite. Cool. Now we gotta go, since I split this animation to, because it actually loops twice, and that'll be a reason why you would want to split animations. Let me show you. Her spin attack is actually 3 times. She could score 3 hits with it, but like that. So then I had to have the conclusion of the animation be a separate animation here, which is this one. So now we got to program it to happen to conclude it. So we're going to go in here, insert another new event. Animation has an animation finished, and we're going to check to see if spin attack finished. And if it does, animation change, animation sequence to spin attack end. Look at that. Let's show you. So walking here, send bullets, push forward, and spin. Look at that. And since we already had the boundary set up, it still won't go off the edge. Now what's missing? Well, looks like I can't hit her with spin attacks. Let's go code that. Go in here. New event. I'm going to check Ruby collisions overlapping another object. Enemy collider. Then we're going to check to see if Ruby is doing her attack animation or spin attack animation. Then we're going to want to do the frame. I'm going to just copy it up here. Frame looks like it's equal to 6. And one action event loops. Now since it's going to hit animation frame 6 3 times, because it's up to 3 times, because it actually loops 3 times, that means you can get 3 possible hits every single time. So let's go subtract some damage. Let's subtract. Let's do 5. So it should do a total of 15. Let's do 7. Subtract 7 HP. We're going to change the animation to falling, which is the getting hurt one. And then let's create our little effect. So I hit. This one is going to come from the action point. So then, boop. Look at that. Yah! She gets hit. I can't actually see because there's that thing in the way. There you go. Look at the damage. Look at that damage. And then I can still attack normally too. Look at that. We have a basic combat engine in just about an hour. Now I'm going to just go a little over here because I took a lot longer than I thought. But I'm going to go over the quick AI. This one's going to be quick and dirty, okay? Alright. So I do want to stress that there are better ways of doing things. I'm just trying to show a quick and dirty way of doing it, just to show that it can be easy. As a programmer, you kind of, or game developer, or whatever you are, who's hobbyist, whatever, professionally, we all have our different levels of skill, and the trick is to understand that your level of skill, as it improves, you find better methodologies of doing things. I'm trying to show you a nice blend of what I know versus what might be easier to ingest and learn. I'm sure a seasoned veteran will look at this and be like, what are you doing? This is awful. Don't concern yourself too much about doing everything the right way, in my opinion, especially if you're doing this from starting off as a hobbyist. If you're doing this for a company, you want to try to strive for their whatever pipeline they have. But as an individual and just trying to start out, wanting to make a fan game, do what you have to do to get it out. In my opinion, that's number one. It's honestly going to be dirty. You don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of free time. You don't need to make this perfect and fully optimized. You should strive towards that as you learn, but especially doing this out, you want to just build something. So I'm showing you very quick and rough ways of doing it. There are definitely better methodologies to do it. There's like using things like vectors and all this stuff, but I want to show you how to just get something done. Typically with AI, you want to have things like state management. That's very important because that tracks what it's doing at any time. I'm not going to bother setting that up. We're going to just do this very basic, very rough, just gets the minimal viable done to see what we can do, okay? Now with that said, let's build something. So my AI simply is going to just close the distance and then attack when she's in range. So we're going to start it off. This one I'm going to start with a timer. So on it, so every 2 seconds, this is going to trigger. And what am I going to do is I'm going to detect to see if Evil Ruby, her current X position, if it's less than Good Ruby, her X position. But I'm going to add an extra thing to it. It's less than her position minus 150. That means we're going to check to see if the Evil Ruby is 150 pixels lower in terms of her position than her current position. The reason why 150 is I want to check something outside. The idea is that I want to see if you're 150 pixels away, you're probably outside of her effective range. Now what we're going to do with that is we're going to go to Eva Ruby, and we're going to set her animation. Or more importantly, first we're going to go change our alter variable. We're going to set, if she's lower, then she will need to look right because she needs to walk and add to her position. So we're going to set her direction to 0. And I'm going to set her animation to walking. Now, if you remember, we assign the position updating to the walking animation of the entire group. So now we don't need to program that. She should automatically walk forward, at least in this direction. But we still need to do the other one. So let's go do the other one. Copy, paste. Now, instead of doing direction, we're going to check to see if it's greater than Ruby's position plus 150. And I'm going to set her direction to 1. So now when we run this, there'll be a little delay, but look, she's running up and she's running back and forth. She doesn't stop, but she still turns around. Look at that. We have the initial AI coming. So now let's attack while in range. Stop and attack. So let's go insert new event. We're going to go do the same thing. We're going to check positions, but we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to go check compared to Ruby's. It should be Eva Ruby, position, compare X to a value, go to regular Ruby, position, X coordinate. I'm going to check to see if it is greater or equal to Ruby plus actually, I think it should be lower than plus 150, if I remember right. Yeah, it should be opposite. So that's going to be, now we're going to check to see if it's greater or equal than minus. That should be lower or equal. Yep, that's what I did here. And then of course we're going to check to see if Ruby is walking. Why do we check for that? Well, this is kind of, since I'm not doing state management, this is where state management really comes into play. So you'd be able to detect, what am I doing right now? Do I want to attack right now, or am I doing something else? The more rougher, dirtier way to do it is just to check to see if she's currently walking. Why? Because if she's closing the distance, she will be walking. I mean, it's just that simple. The second, what we're coding right now is the second she comes within range, switch that animation to attacking, and then this won't fire anymore. So we're going to go there, animation, change, animation sequence to attack 1. And that's it. That should break the loop. Now we want to do some combos. So let's go, insert new event, and then we're going to check to see if Eva Ruby, her animation is done. Well, we're going to just assume that the first hit hit, so let's go switch to the next one. So animation change, animation sequence to attack 2. And then when attack 2 is over, I'm going to go back to walking. Oh, I see, I did attack 1. You're right. This will keep them cycling so we don't actually run out. Another thing, I mean, the walking would have worked too, because then she would immediately go into her walking again, and then it would trigger that she's within range and then cycle through. In fact, let's do that. I think that would be better than hard coding it. So she should play. There you go. She's looping it. Do, 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 do. Now, of course, we're missing the register of the hits, so let's go do that. Insert, new event. This time, we're going to do Eva Ruby is overlapping Good Ruby. Oh, not Good Ruby, sorry. Ruby's Collider. And then add a new condition if she is attack 1. Then we're going to check for Evil Ruby animation, which animation is playing. Attack 1, attack 2. What? I'm sorry, I don't know what I had a brain fart. I got distracted. So let's do that again. Add a new condition. I'm going to check to see what her frame is. I think it was, I can't remember now. I think it was 5. That's 6 again. I don't know why I keep thinking that one's 5. And then, of course, only one action, one event loops, just to make sure we don't score multiple hits that we don't need. This time, we're going to set Ruby's animation to falling. Then we're going to subtract 5. Now we could do the other attack. So this one, so remember, the attack animation 2 for the evil one is actually 2 and 1. So we're actually going to have to register 2 for that. So luckily we could just copy and paste this, since it's basically the same thing we're going to do. We're going to set attack 2. That one is for frame, so frame 4 is 1 hit. That'll also be 5. And then we're going to paste one more time. I'm going to copy that over, Oh, not 4. I think it's 14. Yeah, the second hit is frame 14. And there you go. And I forgot to add the effects. So let's go create those. We're going to create our little glint. This time it's going to be on Evil Ruby, action point. And we could just simply copy those down and see what we got. The first two didn't hit. Curious as to why that's not doing. Probably because oh, this should be 10 anyways. Oh, those are hitting. I wonder if she's just outside the range. You know what it is? I didn't move her forward. We completely forgot that. So let's go do that now. Insert. New event. No, she should be moving forward. Because we did it to the group. I messed up here. So this needed to be group. This needs to be group. Wait, no. So I can copy this here. That needs to be here. That needs to be here. Oh wait, those are disabled ones anyways. I apologize. But did I code? I don't think I did. I think I copied it directly to Ruby. Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry. This should have been on the group. I don't know. I think I had to talk as to like, why did I do that? It happens with programming. I'm also really disheveled doing all this slide stuff. There we go. Now it should work because now both should be moving forward when they do their attack. Almost. Almost. What was that? Okay. It should be Evil Ruby. This should work now. Okay. Still a little wonky because she's still just out of range, but does it do that? I have some. I have my groups mixed up again. I'm willing to bet you. Yep. Wait. No, I want that. Yep. We want this to be on group.npc. Yeah, so I'm typing these in. I can go through the menus, but that takes too long. I did this on the wrong list to begin with. There you go. Yep. That's why I did that. I was wondering why I had it on the group, and it's because she needs to move forward with the attack. And the glitch that was happening before is because I had it set rubies, or at least set 2 rubies. It got confused between the two. So, all right, now we're in business. Walk over, attack. Look at that. Look at that. All right, let's do a little something extra that I didn't even code. Let's just end the battles. So we're gonna check the group, create one alter valuables. We're gonna check their HP is lower or equal to 0. Let's destroy it. And then the end of level condition will be simply add a new condition, compare, pick or count, compared to the number of group NPC objects. If it's lower than 2, meaning one's dead and destroyed, since I destroy them, that means the battle's over, and then we just simply restart the frame. Alright, let's try to win this one. Of course, this is so rough. There's no, like, the AI is not responding, and it's also, like, pretty easy because it's just a button masher. That's not, we can get into more if you want. See, look, it just ended. And we can change, like, if I go into the animation, I can add how many frames are at the end to make it last longer. Like 100. I do it for Ruby too. Oh, that's loops. We don't want that. We want 100. And I forgot to do it to both sides. So I got to go back and do it on the other one. Here, I'll let the computer win this time. So, yeah, as you see, it's rough, but you can see that this is pretty lightning fast. I mean, decent to have this much happening at this quickly. Like, this is kind of the power of these kind of game engines. And I know a lot of people talk about, the big name ones, Godot, or Godot, I apologize, Unity and Unreal, and they are wonderful engines. Don't get me wrong; they are very powerful, and some of them even have some really nice user-friendly stuff like visual coding, meaning you code in a similar way that I do here in Fusion. So, I mean, definitely check those out. But my number one tip is don't get hung up on engines because so many people are just kind of like all about like, oh, this is the greatest engine. You got to just use this engine. You're not pro if you don't make your own. Like, for the love of God, don't fall into that trap because you use what resonates with you. Your goal to make a game is to actually get it shipped. Don't get hung up on which engine is best, which one's the most optimized, which is yada yada yada. do what you can. If you can do what you need to do and in all the formats you need and it gets the job done and just something like Game Maker or even like RPG Maker or RenPy if you want a visual novel, then go for it. Like don't get hung up on this whole this talk of just like Unreal's the real, like use Unreal or use Godot or just use what works for you. I just showed you Fusion. I've been using this stuff since I was in 7th grade. I mean, it's powerful, it's quick. I'm an artist more than I am a programmer, although these days I'm kind of more the other way around. But I still, even with my knowledge in programming, I still prefer to use this because I like doing artwork. I want to spend more of my time doing artwork. And as you see, what I meant by animation is important. You see how far artwork can really take your project. Like this is just really rough gameplay, but the animations kind of take it and makes it feel a lot more professional. We can go more into it. I'll give you a quick look at Huntress of Vale code. First of all, this is what Huntress of Vale looks like. We have all sorts of stages. A frame in a stage is basically like an actor stage. This is just a scene that you can use, and you can use it for whatever you want. I'm using for things like intros. This is the intro animation. Oops. Let's go back to this. The main menu is another frame. The actual battles take place in battle mode. Yeah, every single fight is all in a stage. And look at this ungodly mess. The rule of Fusion, whenever you have objects, is they have to physically be on the scene for it to actually register in the scene. So guess what? Everything needs to be here, and I need to have everything for every possible fight ever. So I get this ugly mess of stuff. These are in multiple layers. What you can use layers for is I separate things like all the battle happens on one layer. Then there's another layer for the equipment menu. There's another layer for any tutorials and UI. And then there's a final one for the ending victory screen. But yeah, this is a mess. This is normal. These are the Huntress Vale colliders. And yeah, if you want to see how complicated it gets, I mean, this is... Let's open all of it. These are in groups. Groups are used to kind of like organize your code a bit. But here, let's open all of everything. Open all groups. How many events is this? 1,784. Now, there's a lot commented out. We have a lot of like debug code that I use to test things and stuff like that. But that's still a lot of information. We have everything from, and that's not even everything too, because you can organize. This is all the events for the battle mode exclusively. There are also something called global events. This is where I control things like voices and sounds, because you could have sound effects in like the character selection menu or in the main menu, depending on certain things. So I have those controllers and the music in here. These happen across every frame, scene. And then even after that, oops, go back here. In the individual objects themselves, you can have, you can go over here and you can have behaviors, which are code for that specific object. This is where I have all the logic for Ruby, in this case, for Huntress of Vale. Let's open everything and see and cry at how much code I had to write to do this. Open all groups. $719 just for Ruby. That's a lot. Of course, Huntress of Vale is a much more complicated game. We have now like a much more sophisticated AI that reacts to what you're doing, and not only that, you also have a ally AI. So you have characters who, you have your characters, and they're also fighting. So yeah, the enemy AI needs to be smart enough to deal with two opponents at the same time. You also have an ally opponent who is smart enough to handle situations, and you're handling multiple enemies on the screen. I mean, it's not just one to worry about. You have to essentially keep track all that information. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of events. I've been doing this since 7th grade, and In a couple days, going to be 38 years old. Yes, I am old. I apologize. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been wanting to build an action game for a long time, and I just didn't have the skill to do it until recently. So, yeah, this is a lot, but don't don't get overwhelmed by this cuz if you if you haven't played 100 Veil, please play it. Please tell me cuz even if you don't watch Ruby, I still want to know what your thoughts are on the game and mechanics and everything like that. But there's a lot to that. You have not only do you have the AIs and stuff, but you can switch between your ally and your character. So it needs to be smart enough to then swap the controls and then know what to pick up where you left off. There's also things like reviving. Like if you get KO'd, your ally can revive you, and vice versa. There's also things like items, and like I said, Ruby can equip different types of attacks. So you have a whole tree of combos that you can do that alters at any moment. There's a lot to this game. Don't get overwhelmed. This is years of me honing my skill to get to this point, as well as there's also a lot of things. Remember how I said before that there is doing it the right way? There is a lot of that. I am doing things a certain way where I try to. It's called division um, of specialties, where you want to kind of separate out your controllers for like when I didn't use any music or any sound effects in our little mock-up. But if I did, and you want to do it the quick way, you usually just go in here, and then in your event, so let's say um, where they get hit, you go into sound, sample, play sample. The problem with doing it that way is that if you need to change that sample, like let's say you find a better effect, you have to go find every single time you play that sample and change it every single time. If you separated your interests, you separated your specialties, then you can have it where you trigger a code, like a variable, that your sound effect player listens for. It looks for that code. When that code comes in, then it plays the attached sound effect according to that code. That's a lot more code that you have to do. But then if I need to go change it, all I need to do is just change it once. And I can even do extra things on top of that if I want to have it where I send out, oh, play me a hurt sound effect. Well, in the code of the actual sound effect player, it can play a randomized clip of 10 different ones. And I only need to send it one code. I just need to tell it, play a hurt sound effect, and it will just play one of 10. You can do really cool things like that, but it does take a lot more thought and a lot more effort. And yes, there are right and wrong ways of doing things. I don't always have it right. Not everyone does. But if you're starting out, and if you're watching this video, most likely you're just starting out. This is new for you. Do what you can to actually get something on the screen. Do what you can to actually, like the baby steps. People always ask me, like, how do I make a game? Baby steps. You saw it right here. I just want to make a character move on the screen. Make it just move on the screen. Like, you should be proud because it may have taken me like an hour to just build this rough game. But imagine like back in the days of like Atari, like a lot of those games are basically this level of functionality, and it took months to make. So be proud of what you do. Be proud of it. Be proud of every step, and keep moving forward, just like Monty used to say. And you'll get there. I'm still not done. I'm in 3 years deep in Huntress Vale, and I'm like halfway done with the game, at least from what I plan to do with the story. And there's a whole bunch of extra features that I haven't even begun to touch yet. Like, I get it. People want Team Juniper. People want some of Team Stark in there. I even have dreams of having some people of Team Coffee in there too. Those are going to come. They're going to come, but that's later down the road. Like, one thing at a time. Just keep moving forward to something. Don't just get hung up on adding more and adding more and adding more, because then it's going to get overwhelming. I mean, even with the story of Hunter's Veil, and I did promise I was going to go into the AU stuff, and I'm sorry this took a lot longer than I thought, so I'm going to make a separate video for the AU stuff. So let's keep, but in general, like, whether it is an AU or a game, start small. The general rule for games, at least, has always been like you just make Pong, make Mario, and make a whole bunch of little tiny little games and work up. You could do that, or if you want to do a big project, you just break everything down into the smallest piece of what you could work on and get done within a day or a couple of days. You want to keep it short. These little sprints, as we call them in the programming industry, like if they take too long and you're doing this, especially for a fan project, you tend to lose interest pretty quickly. You get overwhelmed. I say break everything down, work on the smallest element. Get a character to move, get a character to shoot a gun, get a character to just play an animation. Then get the character to do this, get the character to do that. Like, just break it down to the smallest things possible. Your goal shouldn't be to have a complete level. I built this out, but this is just a template. Like, I don't have a complete level. I don't have everything fully mastered out. I just have something, and that's your goal. So it's all constantly progress forward, add something, get it rough, but get it in there, and then refine it. Then move on to the next. Get it rough, get it in there, then refine it. Get it rough, get it in there, get it and refine it. And you know what? You'd be surprised how fast you actually get stuff to show. But if you look at this whole thing and just like, oh my god, I have a whole game to make. Just look at this like, I'm going to make an MMORPG. This is my first game ever. Well, that's a lot of assets. That's a lot of code. That's a lot. You're going to go open up Unity, whatever engine you use. You're going to throw a few things on the screen. You're going to like, okay, I need a break. Come back. I need a break. Come back. After like 3 or 4 hours, you're going to be like, oh my god, this is taking forever. I'm so over this. And whether it's like 4 hours or 4 weeks or 4 years, the last thing you want is to just be like, I'm done. I can't do this. That's literally the worst feeling ever. If you break everything down, you at least see the progress. You feel the progress. If you try to just like, I'm going to make a Ruby fighting game, well, that's cool. That's a lot of work. And if you just look at it like that, there's a very good chance that you're going to get bored or frustrated and drop it out because it's like, oh my god, this is so much work for one guy to do. Well, one guy can do a Ruby fighting game, and I have a beat 'em up. I know people who are working on like a Devil May Cry one. There's a more open world-ish kind of action game that people are working on. I mean, I also know someone, working with the Mugen engine who's also kind of doing crossovers with other characters. You do work within your means. It's not about the engine. It's not about having all the skills. I'm more of an artist. I used to started more of an artist than a programmer, but these days I'm more of a programmer than an artist. I'm definitely not great at animating, and my rigs are probably laughable. And honestly, I can't even show you how I do the animations because I'm really running a computer still working on running XP. That's how old my software I'm using. That's just what I'm used to. I'm too stubborn to learn something new. Honestly, because I have so many projects I want to get done, and I'd rather get those done and then I'd start learning new stuff. So, long story short, break everything down, whether it's an AU or game or whatever, just break everything down to the smallest things. And then, so if in an AU you want to break it down to like, okay, figure out your plot points, figure out your world moments, figure out what is it that makes your AU stand out, and home on that. And it's going to vary for each person. There's some people who love world building, some people who love working on the romance stuff, some people who love working on drama and action, whatever. Just break it down. This also goes for animation too. These amazing Ruby fan animations, they take forever. They take insane amount of manpower to make these things happen. It's going to take a while, so you need to figure out ways to try to break everything down where you can feel like you're making progress. And eventually, keep at it, you'll get there. The trick is to keep that motivation. Alright, I'm well over my time frame here, so thank you so much for listening to me. I apologize for all the stream errors. I'm going to compile this up and make this, trim it so it's more, get all the junk out, and we'll go from here and let me know what you think. Alright, thank you very much. Take care. Bye.